Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat. In this session, we're going to look at something called the service efforts and accomplishment, which is called the SEA reporting. Now, what is the SEA reporting? The SEA reporting deals with governmental units, school, district, police department, city, county, so on and so forth. Why do we prepare this report? Well, because for governmental entities, yes, the bottom line is important. Basically, they want to generate enough money to survive, but that's not their goal. Remember, the government is there to serve a purpose. So we need to measure the government performance on some scale other than financial. So because the bottom line is not a good indicator of government performance, government often provide non-financial performance. Now, obviously, they do provide financial indicators, financial performance, and we looked at those in a separate session, which I will show you in a moment. But the service effort and accomplishment look at non-financial. They might combine some with financial, but mainly we are looking at non-financial. So what are we looking for? We're looking at the quality of service. How good is the quality of service that they are providing vis-a-vis their input, vis-a-vis how much they are spending on that. Now, bear in mind, this SEA reporting is not mandatory by GASB. So this is voluntary, okay? So let's put things into perspective. Again, companies, for-profit companies, they prepare financial statement analysis and ratios. This is for-profit companies. In this course, we looked at performance evaluation for government. Those are financial performance evaluation. There's a separate recording. And also we looked at performance evaluation for not-for-profit. Now we're looking at performance evaluation, but the focus is not monetary, the focus is non-financial. So the best way to illustrate this is to show you an example. For example, let's assume it's a school district. Yes, they have financial statements, we prepare the ratios, everything looks good, but we also want to look at other factors. What can we look at in addition to the financial indicators, okay? So what would an SEA report for a school district would look like? Think about it. Well, one thing that we could look at is the class sizes. How big is their class sizes versus the next school district, or versus the average in the state, or the average in the county? We can look at ratio of student to teachers. We can look at grade progression. What's the overall grade for the school over the past 5 years? Is it improving? Is it deteriorating? We could look at the graduation rate and compare the graduation rate to the state average, to the national average, to the county average, and see how well they are doing. We can look at the SAT score, the average SAT score of the students in that school. So this is what we're looking at for service effort and accomplishment. Indicators other than financial indicators. Why? Because we want to see how well the unit is doing on levels other than financial. Now let's take a look also at the SEA level of reporting. The SEA level of reporting has basically 5 functions. Now we're going to look at those 5 functions. So when we evaluate something, how do we evaluate it? There's something called input. Input, first we have to find out what is the resources dedicated to the problem. The problem means it's not the problem is the entity, or the problem is the task. Here, it's not a problem, the word problem, it's an issue. It's just how much are we dedicating resources. So the first thing we want to know, what's the input? So how much money are we dedicating? Simply put, input. It doesn't have to be money. It can be physical asset, which is obviously acquired by money. We could have money, and we could have personnel and hours. So what is the resources that is devoted to this? Let's assume we're talking about the police department. So for the sake of illustration, we're looking at the police department. Okay? So for example, we would look at the resources. How much resources do they have? Then we can measure their output. The quantity of service provided. For example, how many responses per month, how many number of arrests, hours of patrol in the town, so on and so forth. So this is output. So we look at the input, we look at the output. We look at the outcome. We want to see if they are reaching their outcome. What's the outcome? The extent of which results are achieved or needs are satisfied. For example, what's the police department outcome? The crime rate, no crime rate if that's possible, or the crime rate is down, there's no theft, no vandalism, so on and so forth. So we look at their outcome. Are they achieving their outcome? How's the crime rate in that city or in that town? What is the value of property loss due to vandalism and theft? If it's high, then they're not accomplishing their outcome. We need to work on the outcome. We also need to take a look at the efficiency. What is efficiency? Every time you hear the word efficiency, it has to do with cost. So you're doing the same thing with less cost as being efficient. Related to cost, which is input to output measure. So what is efficiency? You want to measure the efficiency. How much they are spending money, it's input to outcome. Input to outcome. Input to output. So how much they are spending money to achieve their objective. The less they spend money, the more efficient you are. So what's the number of responses per dollar spent, or police officer? Okay, so here you're looking at how much money they're spending versus what's the output. What's the output for that police department? For example, one police department, they might spend let's say $1 million, $1 million on police officers, on salaries, and they have per month 100 calls. Okay, what does that mean? It means we can take 1 million divided by 100. So each call is, let's make it 1,000 to be more realistic. So make it 1,000. So each call is costing, or the efficiency of it is $1,000. So each call on average is $1,000 if we spread the cost over the number of calls. In another county or another city, they spend $1 million, but they service 2,000 calls. Now they are more efficient. Now what's going to happen is the average, the efficiency is, what's the dollar amount per call? $500 if we take the police officer salary. So notice this county is more efficient, but again, there's more calls. Why? But this is how we're looking at efficiency here. We're not looking at output or outcome, we're looking at efficiency. So this is an example of efficiency. Also, we can look at cost outcome. What does this cost outcome relate to? Now we're looking at input versus outcome. Input versus outcome. Efficiency, input versus output. Cost outcome, input versus outcome. Okay, so what is the value of the property due to crime per dollar spent? So how much are we spending versus what is the dollar the value property due to crime? We can compare those two ratios together. So this will be a cost outcome. Again, this is an example for a police department, but you could do this. Each department or each unit will have a different outcome. The input will be the same. You need to have resources. The output will be different for each department. For example, the school district will have a different output than a police department. The outcome will be different also for a school district. For example, you need the graduation rate, a grade progression, so on and so forth. Efficiency is a function of input and output, and cost outcome is a function of input and outcome. Hopefully you get an idea what SEA level of reporting is. Basically, this is like consultancy work. You're looking at the governmental unit from a different perspective, from a non-financial perspective, from an efficiency perspective. Okay, so hopefully you have an idea now what SEA is. If you have any questions, any comments, by all means email me or see me in class. I don't believe this topic is covered on the CPA exam, but who knows, maybe one day it will be covered. But now we covered it. If you have any questions, once again, email me. Good luck.